Yoni and Ishaan. We work with satellite imagery almost every day, and the platform that we built tries to make working with satellite imagery more accessible to non-experts. So the platform that we built creates satellite imagery chips from a list of locations.
As a digital investigator, you might be in a situation where you want to quickly prospect something that's visible through satellite imagery. Maybe you want to look at areas that are flooded in Pakistan, or you want to look at a bunch of different Russian air bases where flights are taking off from. Usually, as a digital researcher, it's easy to get geographic locations from Google Maps or from any amount of data sources online. But then going from these geographic points to actually the satellite images is where you need typically expertise in a satellite data platform, which is what we're trying to get rid of and make accessible. Our platform supports a few different types of location files and 3 different sources of satellite data. With some of our examples now, we'll show you some of this. So the first example is a data set of 21 airports in New Mexico. So I have it as a KML file here. I'm going to add it to the platform. Here are the locations of the airports. And now I'm going to ask for chips using this satellite NAIP. So we'll submit that request. And there was a bit of a wait, but here we have the results. Some of the results are a little misshapen. We need to look into that. But by and large, you can see these are all airports. You could, for example, be trying to train a machine learning classifier to look for airstrips, and this would be a great first step to getting a data set. And then you can also download the chips here.
And the second example of how the platform works is a demonstration of Russian naval bases. So we're going to browse for the geographic file. We have a GeoJSON this time. That loads a couple of Russian naval bases in the Baltics. And this time we're going to use Sentinel-2 as the imagery source and submit that request. And as you can see below, we now have open data images of Russian naval bases, and that can be useful to observe changes and detect patterns and get a sense of the landscape of how different bases look.
Our third example is going to be quite a big query. It's about 60 lakes in Kenya, and we're going to actually use false color imagery, which will highlight the vegetation around the lakes. And so I'm going to select false color. And here we have results. As you can see in false color, you can see the contrast between the water and the vegetation around the water, or bands of even barren areas very clearly.
Very early stages of prospecting a story and want to click a couple points in the map without necessarily having a file to work off of. You can do that with this interface.
We're pretty excited that this platform is already up on the internet. It is a little bit slower than we'd like, so that's one of the big areas that we have to focus on, speeding it up. Even though a query like the Kenyan query took like 6 or 7 minutes to run, that's still considerably faster than the hours it would take to have set this whole thing up on a platform like Google Earth Engine. Though we have support for CSVs, KML, shapefiles, and GeoJSONs, any old file downloaded from the internet, there's a few edge cases that some of the files, even though they might be in the right format, might not work immediately with the platform without a few tweaks. But given more time, we would be able to address the edge cases.